Happy Thanksgiving. Today, to show my thanks, I'm going to teach you how to make the perfect pie crust. We're going to make an apple pie for Thanksgiving, and if you catch this early enough, you can make your own apple pie for Thanksgiving, and if not, you can make it for Christmas. So, ingredients, we're going to start out with a cup of shortening, okay, divided in half. Okay, so you're gonna work with this in halves, and shortening is messy. 2 half cups of shortening. Okay, 2 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of table salt, and ice water. Now I have some water chilling with some ice cubes. This is way more than you'll need, but you want to get that good and cold before you get started. Okay, so let's get our flour ready. Okay, now the secret to good pie crust, okay, as taught to me by my grandmother, is less about the recipe, because she didn't even have a recipe, okay, but the technique and the feel of it, okay, so that's what I'm going to teach you today. Okay? So we're going to start out with the flour. Now, modern flour is pre-sifted, so you don't have to sift it, but you don't want to pack it down either. You want to make sure that when you measure it, that you don't pack it down, okay? So I'm going to get a cup of flour, okay? It's a little more than a cup, and what I do is I just tap it and scrape it 1 level cup. Another one. So you always want to start out with just a little bit more than a cup in your cup so that you can tap it and scrape it. So that's 2 cups, and then we need 2 more thirds of a cup. One, 2. Okay. I keep my measuring cup right in the flour so that it's always there and ready when you need it. Okay, so into that flour I'm going to add the teaspoon of salt, okay, just regular table salt, okay, and then just mix that. Yeah, okay. So next comes the shortening, okay, and this is the part that makes all the difference, okay. So I'm going to take my first half a cup of shortening, and I'm going to put some little chunks distributed around the flour. That's my oven preheating to 425 degrees. Okay. So by adding these chunks in this way, it makes it easier to break them up. Okay, so now we want to coat the chunks of shortening with flour, and then with the tips of your fingers, just start breaking them up and coating with flour, okay? So just keep doing that. You want to use the tips of your fingers because you don't want this to get warm, okay? You want it to stay cool. And the goal here is to coat all the grains of flour with the fat from the shortening. Okay, so once you get it broken up, you can start just sort of gently rubbing it together with your fingers. And you want to keep doing this until it has about the texture of cornmeal, okay? So all the fat, very, very small little lumps. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Normally, I don't make just one pie, okay? So this is the crust for one pie, but if you're going to go through the trouble and make the mess, I will usually make either 2 or 4 pies. So I'll either double or quadruple the recipe because it's about the same amount of work and same amount of mess, but then when you're done, you have more pies. And once you've baked the pies, you can freeze them and thaw them out later. So that's just a little hint. Okay, and you can see you want to get rid of all the lumps of shortening. Now, like I said, my grandmother taught me this, and when she was younger, she would have used lard, but she did switch to shortening before she taught me, so, because, I mean, you could make it with lard if you can find lard, but that's often difficult. Okay, I don't make it with butter because butter has a lot of water in it, and it would throw off my measurements and ratios. And also butter browns when you cook it and potentially burns. So I've just never been, I've never made a butter crust, and I'm not familiar with the process. Okay, so you can see that this is now, all the lumps are gone, and it's about the texture of, like I said, cornmeal. So now we're going to add the other half of the shortening. Same process. We're going to distribute little chunks of it. Whoop. Throughout the flour. And again, you're going to toss them to get them coated so they don't stick to you. And then with the tips of your fingers, begin breaking them up. Now this time you'll know you're done when the consistency is like small peas, okay? It will clump together no matter how much you break it up at this point. So you just want to make sure that there's no large lumps of fat, that the clumps are clumps of flour. And again, the tips of your fingers, try not to get it warm. Okay, so you can see there's no real clumps of fat in here. It's just if you squeeze it, the the flour is clumping. Okay, oh, there's a little bit of shortening. Okay. So now we're going to add the ice water, okay? And the reason I can't give you a measurement on this is that it depends on how much moisture was already in your flour, and that varies depending on the weather, depending on how freshly opened the flour is. Flour comes in paper bags, so it's not sealed for moisture, so it varies, okay? But you want to add a little bit of water at a time until it just comes together into a dough, okay? And you want to be careful not to work the dough, okay? You want to work a pie dough as little as possible. The more you work the dough, the more gluten you're going to make, and the tougher the pie dough is going to get. So the less you work it, the better, okay? You work dough a lot for pizza because you want a stretchy, chewy crust on a pizza. That's the opposite of what you want for a pie crust. So by doing the shortening the way we did and working it very little once we add the water, we will get a nice tender crust. Okay, so I'm going to dribble just a little bit of water and then gently bring it together. Okay. I'm just lifting it and letting the water mix without working the dough. And you can see it's starting to clump up. So I'll add a little bit more. So you do this a little at a time. If you add a little bit too much water, you can just add a little bit more flour. Not the end of the world. Like I said, my grandmother never measured. She did it all by feel. And so as long as you don't go overboard, you're fine. Okay, so this is still, you can see the clumps are forming, but it's not a dough yet. Rub it off your hands. Okay, so it's starting to come together. Okay. Now, like I said, I'm not working and I'm just pushing it together. Forming a ball. Okay, that's just about the right consistency. I'm going to add just a little sprinkle of water, that's it. Form a ball. And there's cracks in it. Yes, it's not. It's not a, like I said, it's not a pizza dough. It's not a bread dough. That's it. So now I'm just going to let that rest and give the flour a chance to hydrate. Okay, so the water is going to absorb some more, so that has to rest. You can wrap this up in plastic wrap, stick it in the fridge, use it tomorrow or the next day, it'll be fine. We're going to do our pies today, so I'm just going to set that out of the way. Okay, and I gotta get my hands clean here. And we'll do the pie filling. Okay. Now, I had hoped to show you how to make pie filling with apples from my apple trees, but they had a rough season this year. We had the whole area had a big, huge gypsy moth infestation, and the trees, we almost lost them, I think. They ate all the leaves, and I got a dozen apples, which is, and they were, you know, small little apples. They were not enough to make a pie. So we're going to use canned pie filling, okay? With some modifications to it, okay? So the first thing is the directions on the can say you need 2 cans, okay? So there's 2 cans, and there's a third because they never tell you. You always need more than they give you, okay? And then the other thing is I'm going to separate the apple pieces out from as much of what my daughter Michelle affectionately refers to as the goop, okay? And get just the apple pieces, okay? And leave as much of the goop behind as possible. Okay, and speaking of Michelle, she's at Fleecables, and as you know, she does make some of the videos on this channel, and she is having a Black Friday sale. So I will give you a link down in the description to her website where you can go get some adorable handmade in the USA, right up there, a couple miles away. Fleece critters, okay, some of which are ice packs and heat packs. Please go support her and her alternate economy. Okay, so yeah, lots and lots of goop. Okay, now, the other thing about canned pie filling is I find it kind of bland. I like cinnamon in my apple pie, lots of cinnamon, okay, so do this to your taste, okay, but I'm going to add an ungodly amount of cinnamon, right? Okay. It's the way my grandmother did it, it's the way I do it. Okay, so the pie filling is done, which is nice and easy because it was canned. Just clean my counter off here. Okay, so now we are ready to make our crust. So I'm going to get some flour and dust my work surface with it. Get our ball of dough, and I'm just going to cut that almost in half. Okay, we need a little bit more dough for the bottom of the pie than for the top. So this isn't a precision operation, but that's that. And then we want to flatten this out. Lots of flour to make it not stick. And then you're going to need a rolling pin. Okay, this is the rolling pin I like to use. My daughter gave that to me, and this is the pin I had before that, more of a traditional rolling pin. Works just fine. Okay, no argument there. If you don't have a rolling pin, basically any large dowel of wood will work, or in a pinch you can just use a wine bottle, okay, and roll it out with that. So I'm going to roll this out, okay, gently. Remember, we want to work this as little as possible, so we just want to get this rolled out until it's thin enough and big enough to fit our pie tin. Okay, here's my pie tin. That's pretty close. We can go a little bit further. And you just change the direction of your rolling pin so that it rolls out evenly and round. Okay, so now I'm just going to flour my rolling pin, and I'm going to gently roll the dough onto the rolling pin, pick it up, and roll it down onto the pie plate, and then just gently lift up the edges and tuck it in. Okay. Now I'm going to set that aside and roll out the top. These little bench scrapers are very handy for this, for making pies, and I picked this up at Dollar Tree for $1, so not an expensive investment. And so now we want to get our top made. And you can see this crust is very tender, and that's what we want. Okay, that looks big enough. Okay, so normally I wouldn't put this on top of the top, but for the camera. So now I'm going to fill it with our filling. Okay. And then this is optional, but it's something my grandmother always did, and that is to dot the top with some butter, because butter makes everything better. Just little chunks distributed around the top. Okay, so that's fine. And now we want to roll up our top and lay it down. Okay, and then I'm going to gently pinch and work my way around, pinch together the top and bottom crust. There are fancier ways to do this, but the old-fashioned ways are the best. So I move my finger over one to space it. Okay, so now I've gone all the way around. I'm going to gently just rub the edge. Okay, you can do that with the heel of your hand and just get all those. The edge of the pie plate will cut the crust off. Like that. Okay. Now, don't throw away the scraps. Okay. So now I'm going to poke a little cross in the middle, vents for the steam to get out, and then halfway between, further out, like that. Okay, so that'll let the steam out of the pie, and it won't bubble up and explode on you. Okay. Finally, I'm going to take a strip of aluminum foil and just gently crumple that around the edge there. Okay. And that'll protect the edge of the crust from over browning. And we will take this off about 15 minutes before the pie is done baking. So now the pie goes into the oven for 40 to 50 minutes. You're going to need to keep an eye on it near the end. Like I said, take the foil off and let the edges brown at the very end. Okay, so I'll take that over to the oven in a minute, and then we're going to take the scraps and gently mush them together. Okay, again, you want to try not to work the dough too much, but you want to make another ball. And we're going to make a little treat that my grandmother used to call crumpets. Okay, these have no connection whatsoever to English crumpets. I don't know why she called them that, but that's what she called them, and that's what we call them. So that's what we're going to make right now. And they're the simplest thing, but they are very delicious. You get many more when you're making 4 pies. So we might get a few out of here. If the dough doesn't stick, a little bit of ice water. Okay, so I'm going to cut these into strips. Okay, so I guess we're going to get 3 crumpets out of here. So, simplest thing in the world. Okay, you get a little bit of butter. Okay. On each one, and then some cinnamon sugar, and you just put that on top of the butter. Wet the edges. And fold them over. And those go on the baking sheet in the oven. They obviously take a much less time than the pie, so keep an eye on them. And they are a tasty treat that I will have this evening because I'm making this before Thanksgiving, and so the pie won't be eaten tonight. Okay, time to put the pie in the oven. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy your pie.